Hey guys,
Yeah.
how are you?
Good morning. We're back with another convo. Kayla and
Yes.
Jess.
Today's conversation is about the art of discernment. Can I say that right? The
Yes.
art of,
Yeah,
because it is an art and you do have to
it
practice.
is. Yes.
So this is coming up because I have a teacher who uh, is helping me like clarify what I want to develop on with my gifts. And she said, practice discernment. And I'm like, what? Like, what does that mean? Right? Like, practice discernment, things like that. And it's actually a very important factor when it comes to even just developing gifts or just going about your day. Specifically for me, it's a practice so that I can decipher whose, let's say, aura I'm reading. Is it mine? Is it yours? Is it the person beside you? Is it the person that just left the room? Or specifically, there's a lot of people that say they're empaths, right? You hear that word a lot. And
Mm.
a lot of
Yeah.
empathic people, they have a hard time going into a crowded place, right? Because there's just so many people,
Mm.
and empathic people really like it's not just being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You actually do feel the emotions and the pain and the roller coaster that somebody else is actually going through. And then sometimes you don't know if it's you or if it's somebody else. You could be picking up on somebody else's energy. So that's the thing about the empaths. And that's why, they tend to be like, I can't stand people. And it's like, well, we have a skill that we can use, and it's called
Yeah.
discernment. And basically, to practice that is you would challenge yourself. Let's say you go into a crowded room or you go to the mall, whatever it is, and you really hone into, am I feeling just this one person's energy or is it all their energy? Like sometimes there could be someone who's completely depressed and that's what you're picking up on,
Mm.
right? But then all the
Yeah.
other thousands of people around them are just happy. They're living their best life. They're here to enjoy, right? So
Yeah.
there's a way to kind of center yourself and try to understand, is this just one specific person opposed to the collective of people? And how do I stop it from, like, how do I block it from latching onto me, right? Like, what if I walk out
Mhm.
of the mall now and I'm all depressed and just feeling
Yeah.
icky? And it's like because I took home, I picked up on their energy and I didn't understand like how to discern whose is whose, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how it came about for me. It goes hand in hand with gifts. It's like being able to decipher whose is what,
Yeah.
right? Because it helps you communicate better too with people, right?
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
could be in a room and someone's really, really angry, and I'm thinking everybody's angry at me. And I'm like, why is everyone angry at me? And it's like, well, you're really just picking up on the one person who's angry. Everybody else is
Yeah.
cool, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a really, really good, I like the word art to practice.
So we're talking about discernment, right? And you may not know what that is if you're listening in, or you may, and you want to continue to develop it, but you I don't want anyone to miss what it was. So when you were saying an example of an empath in a crowded place
Hmm.
and honing in on who is you and who is someone else. That is where the discernment is taking place. So you are taking your energy or to me it's like a mind heart collaboration where
Hmm.
because I also I am empathic. So that means I feel as a way of navigating through my life. So to discern or to hone in that moment that you just discussed would be for me to feel into and to also use my mind. I would use my heart and mind. So it's like you said, honing in on
Hmm.
what is what. So to me, in that moment, it is deciphering what is what and how I do it. I'm not sure how everyone it might be a little bit different, but I do feel into it. So when you take that moment, because like if you're not taking the moment, you're just receiving it all, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
when you take the moment to like, wait a second, I'm not angry. I'm not this. I'm picking up on that. And that's where the discernment took place. And the benefit of that discernment is when you leave that crowded space, I don't have to take that with me because if you didn't do the discernment and you just feel, so you're empathic and you feel all the feels and now you leave, you're gonna leave feeling tired, drained, all the stuff that you were feeling because you took it on as you. It just kind of happens naturally.
yeah,
So the art of the discernment or why it's so powerful is even in that moment, and that's just an everyday life moment, but that's powerful because then you can leave that mall like that wasn't me. That's not
yes,
me. Like I'm fine.
yeah,
And it's just kind of like an energetic separation in a sense to understand that's not me, so I'm not going to take it with me. Because sometimes even what happens, like it's so sneaky. So say you were in this crowded place and there's a whole bunch of worried people. They're anxious about stuff. Let's say we're Christmas shopping and trying to get things done before a certain time.
hmm,
And you, as an empathic person, you start feeling this anxiousness of others. And if you don't discern in that moment that we spoke about that that's not, I'm not anxious,
hmm,
you will start to think anxious thoughts. Like it will
yes,
pour into you. So
yeah,
then you will actually identify as like, well, I'm having anxious thoughts. I am having anxiety. And it's like
mm,
that
yeah,
only happened because you unknowingly felt. So it's like you have a powerful gift of feeling, but you didn't know how to discern, but that wasn't mine. It's almost like say you put on a pair of sunglasses and they have a blue tint and it's like you forgot the glasses have the blue tint. It's not that it's blue there. The glasses are blue. And that would
yeah,
be the discernment that even while the glasses are on, I know it looks blue, but it's not blue. The
yeah,
glasses are blue. The discernment is just kind of like you having an understanding of what's actually taking place,
that's right.
a deeper truth in a way.
That's right. And someone's probably thinking like, well, how do I do that? How do I,
Yeah.
go into this room full of people and channel in like on who is who, right? For myself, what I've been practicing is okay, this is like a true story. I'll just be like like I will take that moment, like quiet my mind. Somebody might walk by and think that's weird, but it's like, give me a second.
Yeah.
And then it's about evaluating as well the people, right? Like, let's say it's easier and you're literally in just, we're talking about like five people around you. And someone is putting off this energy like tired, drained, cranky. And you're like starting to get tired, drained, cranky. And you're like, you want to snap on people the way this other person's snapping on people. Okay.
Yeah.
I literally had to tell this one person once, I'm like, can you please just give me a moment so I can just think, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't take that well, like at all. But I
Yeah.
was just like,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, I
Yeah.
needed that moment. And then I was able to say, okay, this person's not feeling well. And these other people are okay. They're excited. They want to, they're on this new adventure. This person's cranky, right? But then how do I disconnect it?
Mm.
That was hard for me. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's going to take a practice. It is an art because
Yeah.
I tried, and I think my way of trying was more like I was like, okay, let me just try and hold compassion. Let me try and hold, like passion, heart. I don't want to snap back at this person. What they're giving
Yeah.
off, it's like,
You don't want to
you're gonna
play into
get
the energy.
exactly. So what it's giving off is like, let's be snappy at each other. And it's like, no, no, no. And so it took a lot. But then that also kind of took a lot for me. Like, how do you stay happy while you're trying to mm, disintegrate this heaviness coming off from somebody else? I feel like I did pretty good because I was like, at moments when I'm like wanting to snap back, I'm like, mm-mm, no, this
Yeah.
isn't
Nice
me. This
try.
isn't me. Yeah, this isn't me, right? But it's like, what if you're with somebody like that 24/7. Like, what if you live with somebody like that? You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's a serious practice.
Yeah.
Or
And that's what it is
it's a
though. It's a
separate.
practice.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
It is practice.
practice.
It takes a lot of practice, but also like it also may be an indication that maybe you need your own space from certain people,
Mm,
right? Like we
for
can only
sure.
take bits and pockets of these things, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
Well,
that's
and that in itself could be discernment right there. Like discernment can, like you said, it can be used, like you kind of were made aware of it more deeply in regards to your gifts, but like it can be used in your everyday life. So even discerning, I'm living with a person that's constantly such and such kind of way. I'm constantly picking up on it. I actually don't know how to separate from it. Maybe should I maybe even not be here? Do I need to be here? Discerning, should I leave? Like that's actual real discernment in real life, deciphering, am I even okay here? Because you actually
yeah.
could come to a conclusion. Because first of all, depending on what you've been practicing, you said it was a practice. So you could be practicing a life of non-discernment, and you literally have no way of understanding how to separate from certain energy. And in
Hmm.
that moment, the discernment can be that I don't know how to separate from this energy.
Yeah.
I might have to step back from this, or I might have to kick this person out, or break up with this person, or a temporary separation. All of that is going to be within discernment. It's just basically, again, for me, it's feeling and thinking. To me, it's like a coherence of the mind and heart, of like feeling into like what is actually taking place here. Because if you were just reading a situation like that surface level, you could even just say, well, this person is a piece of shit,
Yeah.
right? That could be surface level. We were not, and then it's like discernment might entail, well, you know what, this person, they lost their spouse, they lost their job, they don't have a lot of money, they're doing this. Because in that moment, if you were able to discern all this stuff, you might be able to get back to that place you said where I'm going to be able to hold compassion here because I'm able to discern this person is just a hurt person,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to let that come on to me. If somebody's constantly hurting you, they're so hurt. So even if you have the compassion, they had a hard life, they're constantly hurting you,
Hmm.
the discernment would be, listen, I can't be here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's
And
okay.
whether it be, it
I
is,
want to say
it
that
is,
that's
but
okay. I think a lot of people
yeah,
have getting confused about like when they can and can't leave, like, but no, I have to show, loyalty and things like that. And it's like,
yeah.
well,
We've talked about that a lot, me and you, about being
yeah,
loyal and like
yeah.
tuning into your discernment. Is this actually okay? What's happening though? Are you being loyal or are you being
Or are you being shut
kind of
down?
non?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So really, really understand too, like, I know we're talking about discernment, but also recognize like if you're being abused mentally, physically,
that
whichever
is
it is.
discernment though. This,
Yeah.
what you're saying is discernment.
Yeah.
Like some people don't, because you're not using discernment, you are unaware that you are being abused.
Yeah.
And this is why we're asking you guys to like tap into this and to think about what this discernment is, to look into what is actually happening. Because like your opinion of what's happening is not necessarily what's happening,
Mm.
right? It
Hmm.
could be what's happening, but it's not necessarily. So discernment is going a little bit deeper. Like you said, you might have to even take a pause to be like, wait a second,
Yep.
let me feel this out. It might not be obvious what's happening, right? So this is
Yeah.
why the art of practicing discernment is so important, because it's going to help you in all areas of your life,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you want to
Oh,
see what's happening for real, not just what you think is happening. You could be thinking something that's, you could be thinking someone's loving you. Well, they love me, but they hit me when they're upset.
yeah.
That's not love.
No.
That person's hurt and they're hurting you,
Yeah.
and you might not even know what real love is. And again, if you don't discern, you you can't actually know what's happening. You don't it Your opinion could be right. Like your thinking of looking at a situation could be right.
Hmm.
But to be honest, it's often not, because all situations that I've seen, they're never just surface level.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always something underneath, and discernment helps you see the underneath and the surface as well.
Yes. And like, even to just kind of talk about discernment, like even outside of like relationships, and spiritual gifts. Like it's going to help you all there, but it's also going to help you in the world. So there's going to be like there's things that you might see on the news, there's stories you're going to hear. This is where you also have to practice some discernment. Pause for a second, think about what's being shown to you and feel into it and kind of go with your intuition on some of the stories that are being told. Like they're not all real, they're not all true, or there's always one side of the story. There's like a this side of the story, this side of the story, and then this side of the story. There's so many different versions of the story. So discernment is also practicing like what do you actually believe in? Or are you
Yeah.
just going along with the masses? Are you just going along with what everybody else thinks, right? And it's hard because if you say something that not everybody, the majority doesn't agree with your opinion, like, well, then believe what you believe. Don't bother saying anything. That's also
Mm.
discernment. Like, just
Yeah.
keep it to yourself then and live the
Yeah.
best life and show love. Like, that's it. You don't even
Yeah.
need to get into arguments over
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah, because
right?
sometimes that's what discernment is.
Yeah.
Sometimes discernment even is just like,
Is this
for
argument
example,
worth
if
it?
I'm in a room,
Mhm.
if I'm in an anti-love room, and they're a hateful crowd, me using discernment in that moment might be maybe right now is not the time and place to preach this love that I preach,
You're right.
even though it's my truth. But this is literally what it is. Like I'm just all these examples, I don't want anyone to miss what the discernment part is. It's
Mhm.
taking it all in on a deeper level, right? Which means also you got to connect to yourself on a deeper level. You got to be able to discern stuff within yourself too. So,
Mhm.
you know, for example, just random example that came to my mind. Um, I have kids, you have kids. Your
Mhm.
kid might do something, react to you in a way, respond to you in a way. When you have, a deeper connection with yourself and you understand what it is to be human, you are able to easily discern, oh, my kid is just having an emotional moment. They're not being an asshole to me.
Mhm.
They're having an upset. They're having a big emotional moment and they're not able to handle it at the moment. And again, I'm just even bringing that up to say you want to learn discernment within yourself as well. Like, what are you feeling? Is what you are feeling is true? Because, like, in a moment where I could be mad at my son, I could literally be mad at him thinking he did something to me. And it's like, wait a second, did he?
Yeah.
Did he do something to you, or did he have an emotional response that triggered you? And that is the discernment, because that is
Right.
actually closer to the truth of what happened. And the reason why discernment is so important, like I'm so happy for anyone listening to this conversation, is it helps you get closer to like truth if you
Mhm.
care about truth. If you don't care about truth and you like being upset with people, someone said something to you and now you're mad at them forever. Okay, so that's okay.
All right, that's
That's how
you.
you want to live. This might not be the conversation for you, I'll tell you that much. But if you're like, you know what, I'm having a hard time understanding what's going on. How is it that all people are upsetting me? How is it that every time I go in this room of people, I blah, blah. It's like, if you want to really understand what's going on, you want to tap into discernment, practicing the art of discernment to see what's actually happening. Because for me, even in the example with my son, I'm able to live a more peaceful life knowing
Mhm.
he wasn't trying to bother me or hurt me. He was having his own thing happen within himself, and I was triggered. He didn't do anything to me. So for me to discern that and to understand that, I'm able to help him through it opposed to yelling at him,
Yes.
let's say,
Hmm.
which is why this is so important. And I don't want anyone to miss how important that is. Like, I just feel like this is really big, and a lot of people are not doing this. And I feel like it's something I've been practicing since I was a kid. I was telling you before the call, I went to Catholic school as a kid, and I recall being taught that God was a certain way through teachings of the Bible. And I remember as a child tapping into my discernment and thinking, God, this is not God, what you're telling me God is. This is
Yeah.
not God, because I know God to be love and light. We're the children of God. We're created in his image, okay?
Yeah.
And the Bible speaks of God like an angry man, like an
Yeah.
actual human being, a punishing, judging human being. And as a child, I was able to discern that the God they speak of in the Bible sounds a lot like a man. That's weird. So I'm not gonna just, I can't take that in. And that has been helpful for me to live a wonderful life because, some people live their life fearing God, and that's not God. God would never, the universe does not, like, I can tell you this for certain. The universe does not want you to live in fear.
Mm-mm.
I'm telling you this.
Doesn't want you to fail, doesn't want you to, well,
So,
fail is just like a term that we use for ourselves, but really, like you said, the fear, the guilt,
yeah,
the
yeah,
depression, basically the negative emotions, that's not what we want
yeah.
because
So
those
if you don't have the
emotions pass on to
discernment,
people. Yeah,
but
exactly.
this is what I'm saying, why the discernment is so important. So even if, I questioned things since I was a kid, it's just in my blood for whatever reason. But, if you're not questioning things, like in the beginning of the conversation, you said I had to stop and like, hold on a second. Like,
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about. Pause. Like, what's actually happening? Feel into it, think about it.
Yeah,
This is a practice. We're not suggesting that you do this to be right 100% of the time. We're talking about seeing what's actually there, opposed to limiting things that will only throw you off course,
yeah. You know,
right?
when you were speaking also, I had like this sort of like image come to my head. And the image was a woman who just yelled at her kids. Okay.
Probably
Had a
me.
moment. Yeah. I mean, it happens. So a woman
It
yelled at her kids,
happens.
had a moment, but then went to the room, went into the closet, and started like crying, like
Yeah.
because then all of a sudden she felt this sense of guilt for yelling at the
Mm.
kids, right?
Yep.
Um, so I just want to say in that moment, in that image that I'm seeing, it's like, okay, cool. So that happened. Now you're in the closet, you're having your cry. Take a breath
Yeah.
and dig a little deeper. Why did I yell at them? Where did, oh, I was mad at so and so. I'm mad at so and so.
See?
Why am I
Discernment.
mad at this person? What did they do
Yeah.
that made me mad? And, like just recognize, are you pushing an energy that's coming from somewhere else? Are you pushing it onto others?
Mhm.
And this is on the other end of it, right? Like you got to practice
Yeah.
discernment on like why are you reacting in
Yeah.
that form, in that way? Also, I get it. The guilt too, after like yelling at the kids and not understanding why, it's like that's totally okay. It's normal. Uh,
Yeah.
just do a little deep dive in that moment and think like, okay, where did
Yeah.
it come from? And then I think as we create more awareness as to where um, some of the reactive energy is coming from, we can actually look at our kids or our partners or whoever and be like, what I'm feeling right now has nothing to do with that person.
Yep.
Um,
And this is the benefit of discernment. This is
yes,
like literally what this whole conversation is
yes.
about, though, because we're only sharing this, like we've learned this, but it's like we just want everyone listening to live their best
Still
life in
practicing
discernment.
too. Yeah, and I just want
Yeah,
to say
no,
it's a
we're not
consistent art.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. And but
yeah.
like we're here, this is our life, right? So like
Hmm.
for me, I'm dedicating my life to like my growth and my evolution to
Hmm.
see how I can become the best version of myself. And discernment is necessary in that because I'm telling you, you will get thrown off, come up with resistance blocks if you're not able to discern what's actually taking place. Who are you
Mm-hmm.
actually upset with? Who are you actually in love with? Who's actually on your side? Who's actually not on your side?
Yeah.
Really tapping into the truth of, and not even just your own truth, but like a truth. Yeah, so just, again, to recap that the purpose of wanting to tap into this art of discernment is to see a bit more closer the truth of what's happening, because when you see the truth of what's happening, life flows. Life is beautiful. Like if you were to see the truth,
Mhm.
it's not going to be the opinions that you have that are going to cause blocks and resistance, because our opinion is based off of different things that they don't necessarily have to do with the truth. They may have to do with circumstances, but it's not truth. And if you could see the truth of the matter, you will live a better life. Because, like I said in that example, imagine a life where you think you're upset at your husband and you are constantly fighting with your husband because you think you're upset with him. That life opposed to discernment and realizing I'm not upset with my husband. I'm having my own upset. And then that makes your relationship with your husband better. And then you realize, oh, hold on a second. I need a moment because I don't want to take this out on it. It levels you up like nothing else
Yeah.
because you're closer to the truth. And when you're closer to the truth, that's evolution.
Yeah.
That's growth. So yeah, I really wish, for anyone listening on to this conversation, that if you, first of all, if you're doing this already, continue. Don't ever stop. Don't ever think, oh, this is tiring. Like, trust me,
That's
you would
okay.
rather want to live a life of discernment than not. And if you have not been practicing the art of discernment, just start practicing. Just
Yeah.
start tapping into yourself, tapping into
Yep.
others. Even if the question is something more simple, such as, well, what might be, if you're not even certain, well, what could actually be happening here? Is there something else I am mad at? Is there another reason why my husband did such and such? Or, yeah, like why my kid had the reaction? Like, just start asking these questions to
Yep.
get closer to the truth.
Exactly. And you'll
Yeah.
be okay.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
will. But
like
it just,
we all cry sometimes in the closet. It's okay. It's part of it. It's part of the process. That's all I'm saying. Like I'm even just trying to show you that like it's not that serious. Let's laugh it off, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
let's also just try to have fun. Like if you put
Yeah.
too much pressure on yourself, trying to figure out like where you went wrong or why are you so
Yeah,
angry? Like listen, it's okay. Just
it is okay.
take your moment to just really try to understand yourself. And you do have to take your moments. Keeping busy and running away from the problems is not
Mm,
really helpful to practice discernment either. You actually do have to sit there with the problems and understand where it's coming from. And if the anger is even coming from you or if it's coming from something you were taught to believe. So that's all. I just wanted to make that clear as well. Like, you know, just keep
yeah,
practicing and it'll be fine.
yeah. And in regards to just kind of the beginning of the conversation, why this was all brought up in regards to like your gifts and um just any other reason, like discernment can be used for anything, but the beautiful thing about it is when you start practicing it in just your daily life, when you get to that point of where you were in that conversation with your teacher, using it for even bigger, greater things is amazing, because even understanding what your gifts are, how
Hmm.
to cultivate them in the best way, like like you said, say you're empathic, you might want to master the art of discernment so that when you're reading someone,
Absolutely.
for example, because Kayla does reading, so
Yeah.
she wants to decipher, she wants to practice that because she wants to give someone the most accurate reading, and
Yeah.
practicing honing in, focusing in, tuning in, tapping into like what's actually here
Hmm.
is the gift. Like that is literally what we're trying to get at. And whether that be in your daily life, for your gifts, for your work, your life purpose, it is all the same. But when you practice it with the little things, using it for these bigger things, like for you to be able to use that in a reading is like, it's so big, because it's the difference between
It is.
someone who's a really good reader and someone
Yeah.
who's not, who's just picking up on everything. And like, I don't really know, I'm not sure this, or I don't really know what I'm feeling. It's like,
Yeah.
because you haven't practiced discerning, there's still too much going on. It's just, and by the way, that's also okay. Like, to be aware of all the things you're aware of is part of learning the discernment.
Hmm.
I'm aware of all these things, but like, where do they go?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So I just Yeah, I just wanted to bring it all circle where, using this stuff in your daily life every day, it then gets to be used in your gifts, in your job, in your work, anything that's super important, like your relationships with
Yeah.
your family, your loved ones, because that's where it all counts the most. But um, if you're just kind of running on autopilot and you're not present, you cannot practice the art of discernment. You're just going to keep doing all the things we're talking about that you don't want to know, or sorry, that you don't want to do, that gets you further away from the truth, gets you bucking up against your ego, basically,
Yep.
and resistance and blocks. And I don't want that for anybody. Our message is always going to be about empowerment,
Yeah.
freedom, upliftment, growth, healing, evolution, and discernment. It's on that track. So,
It's all part of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Please leave any comments you like. If you want to dive in a little bit more about the spiritual aspect of it, we can do a video on that too. And we're just going to sign it off, sending light and love to you all.
Love you guys. Bye.